Hey, what's up, good people? It's Rob Lee. So, sometimes you're going along and it's hard in this world, man. It's really, really hard. And it's harder right now, I guess. For the average person, it's harder now than it's ever been. The simplicity of life is gone. There's always been hardships, and your ancestors struggled, but they never had it. There's always been an evil force, an evil presence on this earth that has always tried to harm the children of the Almighty Father. This war has been going on forever. But the stakes have never been higher, and the force that is up against us has never been stronger or more evil or more adamant about conquering us and actually taking on Jesus Christ. And this is a reality that very few people understand. You get a few, I say. You get a few answers to the mysteries of this world, and then the devil and his children go and start asking you different questions. And it's to confuse you and keep you from ever finding out the truth. They cannot change the truth. Jesus Christ spoke in parables for a reason, people, and nothing's changed. The Bible and its teachings are simply for not all people. They're just not for all people. And politically correct, it doesn't matter, man. Do you believe in Almighty Creator, omnipotent, who looks at this world as a bunch of piss ants? From even the most powerful, doesn't matter. I mean, if you took every being or everything that's ever lived times infinity, it's nothing to him. He doesn't care about their politically correct ways. You have to pray and read your Bible, and you get the best understanding that you can. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to show you something, and I hope it'll help you as you go further on in life to help you understand what you're up against. For example, in the Bible, some people have a hard time reading it, and even people who are the children of the Almighty Father, the Bible can be incredibly hard. It's hard for me. It can be incredibly hard. Sometimes the word star can mean star, and sometimes the word star can mean a fallen angel. Sometimes the word tree can mean just a tree, and sometimes it can mean a race, nation, or people. And the discernment that we get is from the Father, and it enables us to know the difference. We're going to look at some scriptures here. I hope you don't mind. This is going to be an educational video as best as I can. I told you before, I've never really considered myself worthy to teach, but I'm here, and the Father's called me to do something, so I'm going to continue to do it. And there's a reason why it's all happening. Job 38:7, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These are angelic beings. These are beings that are in the heaven. Revelation 1:16, this is Jesus Christ, and in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. Now, what were these 7 stars? Well, the mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches. So again, the stars are not what? They're not just lights in the sky. They are angelic beings. You go over to Revelation chapter 12, verse 3 and 4. And there appeared a wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads, and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven. I've taught this many times, and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now this 1/3 was 1/3 part of the stars, 33, and 1/3 these stars are representative of angels, demonic beings that our Father created, so we could have an adversary. Jude 1, and there's only one chapter in Jude. It's a small book right before the book of Revelation, but I tell you, it's one of the more powerful. Outside of anything that are the words of Jesus Christ, Jude is one of maybe the most powerful. And we're just going to read 12 and 13. I would like to do a complete video and read Jude. These are spots in your feast of charity when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water. And I want you to remember what he's talking about, because he's talking about a demonic brood of beings and those who follow them. And I want you to notice the words that are being used here. Without fear, clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit withereth, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. So there's the word trees, and we'll get to that. There's the word water, all right? There's the word fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. What happens when you're plucked up by the roots? You're done. You can't come back, right? Jude 1:13, raging waves of the sea. Now, this doesn't mean an actual sea. This is talking about people and the continual onslaught, the continual of evil coming and coming and coming. This is what this is talking about. Foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars. Now, we just read that stars are what? Demonic beings. Demonic beings who walk this earth, and they have a corrupt DNA. And folks, these monsters can be from the waitress to the president to the billionaire banker to the construction worker to the guy next door to the woman across the street. They come from all walks of life, every color, shape, size, whatever, man. They come from everywhere, and I'm telling you the truth. All right? Now we're going to go further, and we're going to look at the word tree. All right? Tree. And tree and fruit. Now we see that a star here can be very, very, you can see it. It can be a demonic being that fell, right? Now we're going to look at the word tree, and we're going to put this together. And the reason I'm doing it is this. As we go further and things get bad, I want you to be able to identify the evil and the enemy that is around you. And of course, you're going to have to pray, because that is the backbone of our life, and who we are is prayer. But we're going to have to be able to identify the enemy and know that this is what we're going to be facing as we go forward. A demonic, wretched, evil bunch of monsters that live in flesh form, and some that don't live in flesh form. And the ones that are in the spirit realm, these are the ones that guide and push the ones that are in the fleshly suits that do the work. All right, so now we're going to move on, and we're going to go to the word tree and fruit, and we'll tie it together. All right, good people. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and go from stars, and now we're going to get into it about trees. And I'm going to show you a mystery. I hope that some of you will understand that we're not all created the same. We are different. There was life here before Adam and Eve. And I'm going to show it to you, and I hope it will help you to understand the world that you live in and what's coming. And then I'm going to show you what the Father says about it. And I hope it will give you some comfort as we go further. First of all, I want to show you, this is a screen caption that I took off of my channel, and it was just from a couple days ago. And a woman was talking about Babylon, one of my videos about Babylon, and she says, what about the Red Sea, where ships will watch it go down? And see, this is the problem that most people have. The Bible, you have to have the discernment, and it's a gift, man. Either you have it or you don't, or the Father will put somebody in your life that you can trust. You have to have the discernment to know what is symbolic and what is literal. I mean, this is just the reality of it. And I've noticed in the past 15 years that most people, especially in today's time, they simply do not have that. They just don't. What I want to do now, I want to go over to Genesis 1, and I want us to read, and I want us to learn and really think about what's being said here. Everybody's heard of the story of Adam and Eve, the serpent, the Garden of Eden, but do they really understand what was going on? Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Every tree. And we're going to get into what tree is. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now, the word for touch here in a Strong's Concordance is naga. All right, and it has multiple definitions, but one of the definitions is to lay with. I just thought you might find that interesting. So let's go further here. Genesis 3. Now, what's going to happen here is that they're going to eat of the fruit. In Genesis 3:7, it says, the eyes of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Now, I want you to think about something here now. The serpent has done this, and they were naked. Now, I want you to think about how the devil has corrupted your language, and how your own language you are mocked with your own words. The serpent made them naked with his trickery. Now, even now, he mocks the people. You put on a shirt and pants, and this is how you cover up yourself. Shirt, pant. Now, take out the H and say it fast, and you get serpent, as in serpent. You think this is a coincidence, people? Not even remotely close. Then we close it out with, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now, the word enmity means hatred, and then you have the word seed, which is the word for offspring. So the Father himself, not some pastor, or not just some crazy person on YouTube, but the Almighty Father himself is telling you that I'm going to put hatred between the seed of the devil and the seed of the woman, which is the seed of his family. He's going to put this hatred that will last forever, and the devil will bruise the heel of our family, and Jesus Christ will bruise the head, which means it will be fatal. He will deliver the fatal wound to the serpent and his family. Now, to help you to understand what's really going on here, we're going to go over here and we're going to read from Ezekiel. And we're going to understand what a tree really means, because remember, a tree can mean a tree, but a tree can also be symbolic for a people, nation, and race. Ezekiel chapter 31, we're going to read 2, 3, and 4 to start with. Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great, which means people, because sometimes water is symbolic for people. The deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. To other nations, people. To other nations. You're going to learn the truth. 5, 6, and 7. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in the boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Thus was he fair in his greatness, and the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. Okay, now let's get to it. 8 and 9. The cedars in the garden of God, there's only one garden of the Almighty Father, that's Eden. The cedars in the garden of God could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him. Well, who was he talking about? This is talking about the devil. All right? I know it says Assyrian, but it's talking about the devil here, the devil's family. There are other people, nations, tribes, and tongues, and races, and beings that have walked this earth before Adam and Eve. And when the seed of the Almighty Father was put here in the Garden of Eden, we were told not to partake or be around other people. This was one of the explicit rules. This is what the Father told us. Now, the question is this. Did the Almighty Father know this was going to happen? Of course he did. Who do you think really put this in motion, people? You see, so many people they talk about this free will. Free will, free will. Nothing happens, man, unless your Father has put it in motion. You see, the war in heaven between these angelic beings, your Father put it in motion. Everything comes from the Father for a reason, and we're going to get into why it happens. When you look at pictures like this, and you look at this wretched devil here, and you look at his tongue, I mean, I'm asking you people, do you really think that that's a coincidence? Do you really think that's an anomaly with the video? I mean, do you really believe that, people? That's a snake in this being's mouth, because he is a cursed being. He has a different creator. He has a different father. He is a child of whom the Father called the serpent, the devil. And your Father has let this play out. You have to see this, and once you see it, this is the reality of the world that you live in. And you will start to see these beings everywhere with their tongues, their eyes, with their fingers. I mean, how they change right before you. This is the reality of the world that you live in. And if you can't accept it, and if you can't understand it, you will be spiritually stunted. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have your due reward with Jesus Christ. But I'm telling you, for the times that we live in, you have to understand why things are, why they really are taking place. Because we truly are a world divided. We are a world divided between the children of the devil and the children of the Almighty Father. And your Father is allowing this war to take place. But we need to ask ourselves why. Why is he allowing this war to take place? So that's what we're going to do now. All right, good people, it's Rob Lee. What we're going to do here, we're going to do a quick review, and then we're going to get in and we're going to take this even deeper with the words of Jesus the Christ, because he actually puts the nail deep into it. All right. In Genesis 1, we read that the serpent, he came to the woman and he told her, ye shall not eat every tree of the garden. Notice he said every tree. Now, we've learned that a tree are peoples, nations, tongues, tribes, right? This is not a real tree here. This is symbolic. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit which the tree is in the midst of the garden. Now, we just got to reading in Ezekiel where the Assyrian, which is the cedar, the devil, he was in the middle of the garden. His family, his people, and he was exalted above all other people, nations, tongues, tribes, all these beings, correct? This is a deep study. Now, in 1 John chapter 3, before we get into the words of Jesus Christ, you will notice that it says in verse 12, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one, and slew his brother, and wherefore he slew him, because his own works were evil. Now, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one. What this is saying, folks, is that Cain is the son of the devil. Whether you like it or not, it's the truth of what's really going on. The words of Yahushua, Jesus the Christ. Now, first let's start with Matthew 25, 32 through 33, to let Jesus Christ show you what his words. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats, and he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. These are the words of Jesus Christ. In Luke, folks, chapter 3, these are the words of Jesus Christ. And now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees. There's that word tree again, because this means people. Every tree, therefore, which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Again, it is repeated in Matthew chapter 3, the same thing. The axe is laid to the root of the tree, and when you take something from the root, you destroy it. It can't come back. Now what we're going to do is read Matthew chapter 7, and again, go with me. Let the Father, let his discernment be in you, and I want you to know the truth, because there's going to come a time, there ain't going to be no internet. There ain't going to be nobody to teach you the truth, man. So I want you to learn now. Matthew chapter 7, verse 17 through 20. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. 19. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Now we're going to go into the parable of the wheat and the tares, all right? The parable of the wheat and the tares, and these are the words of the King of Kings, Jesus the Christ. We're going to start at 28 through 30. And he said unto them, an enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, nay. Lest while we gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. Let them both grow together, he says. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat unto my barn. Now in 36, 6 verses later, the disciples have come to Jesus Christ. And of this powerful chapter, the disciples want to know one thing. He went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the seed is the Son of Man. 38 and 39, the field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. And folks, I'm telling you right now, we are getting close to harvest time, closer than you can possibly, than most people really understand. Matthew 13:40, as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing of gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears, let him hear. Matthew 13:47-48. Let's close it out. Again, now he gives another parable to close it out. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered up every kind. Think about what he's saying. Which when it was full, they drew it to shore and sat down and gathered the good into the vessels, but the bad they cast away. 49 and 50. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. John chapter 15. Now that's the end of the parable of the wheat and the tares, but listen to the words of Yahushua. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. Notice all this symbolic talk about trees, water, vines, and fruit, because this is about people, nations, tongues, and tribes. Listen to me, people. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Now, we're getting ready to close it out because I want you to understand how special you are. And I want you to understand why all this is happening. Your Father did not just aimlessly put you here and say, hey, when things get tough, you can give me a call. I might be able to help you. There's a reason for it, a powerful reason, and I'm going to explain it to you, and we're going to close it out. And I want you to remember it as you go forward when the tribulation comes, because many of us, some of us not, we are going to be in the middle of the tribulation. And I want you to know these things because they will help you and bring you comfort, and they will give you understanding and knowledge. All right. So let's close it out and let's learn why all this is happening and what your Father really tells it about who we are and why he allowed this to happen, because he's the one who put it in motion. Before we get to the last part, there's just a couple of things that I want to say to you. This war will continue. You will go through hard times, and we will continue to learn, and we will continue to fight and to struggle. But that's not what the video is actually about. It's about getting you to have an understanding of it, of what you're up against and who's in control. I want you to think about these verses here. This is Isaiah 57:4. Against whom do ye sport yourselves? Against whom make ye a wide mouth and draw out the tongue? Are ye not children of transgression, a seed, which means the offspring of a falsehood, the children of the devil? And in Deuteronomy 20:16-18. But the cities of these people, which the Lord thy God, our Father, doth give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt not save alive nothing that breatheth. So here now your Almighty Father is saying in verses 17 and 18 to destroy every single one of them. Why would your Father do that? Is he evil? Is he mean? Is he cruel? Of course not. He's perfect. This is a demonic bloodline, and your Father was trying to tell, but of course his children, they had to do things their way. They wanted to make a deal. They wanted to conform them. They wanted to make them better. So he tells his children to get rid of the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. He tells us to get rid of them. They that teach you not to do after all their abominations, you see, which they have done to their gods, to demons, so should you sin against your Father. This is what the Father was trying to say, is that when we go astray from him, when we get locked up with the devil's family, we do the devil's things. It takes a lot of strength to pull back and not be a part of that. And this is how we are being separated. They are a seed of falsehood. And I'm going to explain all this to you in just a second. And I've been telling you folks this since day one, we're not all the same. These monsters are of a different seed. We have different fathers. All right, good people. I want to go ahead and close this out. And what I want to explain to you and show you is something very simple. It's not complicated. With everything that's bad in the world, and I mean everything, from medicine, the air, the morality, the violence, everything, every aspect of life, you have to understand that your Creator and your Father is always in total control. Always. And never for 1 millisecond is he not in total control. And the world that we live in really is divided up between a demonic brood, a family that is evil, that was created to be evil. So when you see these creatures, when you see these people, some of them are in flesh form, some of them are in spirit, you have to understand they were created to be evil for a reason. And that's what they are. They're not of us. They never ever will be, nor can they be. But what I want to explain to you, and just have us read this together and really think about what's being said. Just don't hear the words, but think about what's really being said here. In Romans 8:28 and 29, it says that we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Now, this is talking about the children who have been called from the very beginning. Because he goes on in 29 to say, for whom he did foreknow. Foreknow. What does that mean? It means that he knew you before you came here, because you existed before you came here. This is why the angels and the book of Revelation, this is why they call you brethren. It says, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, Jesus Christ, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. So Jesus Christ was the first, and we are to follow among a family, because that's what we are. We are a family. Now, if you go to Romans 30 through 32, it says, moreover, whom he did predestinate, which is us, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified. So you are justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified. He's going to glorify you. In the book of Revelation, in Revelation 3:9, when Yahushua is calling out the fake Jews, he tells them that I'm going to bring you and make you bow before my family, my flock, to their feet, and know that I have loved thee. Do you not understand what's going on? He's going to glorify you and exalt you in a way that most of you can't even understand. 31. What shall we say? What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? So when things go bad, no matter how bad, and it is going to get bad, if the Almighty Father, if you belong to him, what are we supposed to really worry about? It's his will. It's his plan. What we're supposed to do, people, is stay loyal to him, stay loyal to Jesus Christ, and serve him. That's it. Everything that's going to happen is going to happen. 32, he that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? If the Almighty Father would take a part of himself and create a son, which was the first thing that he created, because Jesus Christ was created before the foundation of the world. So the first thing that the first thing that Yahuwah created was Yahushua. He created himself a son. Now the Bible says that if he spared not his own son but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not freely give us all things? He wouldn't go to that and then turn around and say, I'm not going to give you. He's going to give you everything. You are the apple of his eye. You are his children. And when you really come to understand how special you truly are to him, you will learn to look at this world and not see it. Of course, you're going to see it as evil, but you're not going to be afraid of it. We're going to go now to 34 through 36. Who is he that condemneth? It is Christ that died, yea, rather, that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of God, who also maketh intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, because we're about ready, and notice that it uses the word tribulation. Shall tribulation, distress, persecution, or famine, nakedness, peril, or sword? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Do you not understand? Your father, when we suffer, we glorify him. When we suffer and we don't turn our back on him, we glorify him. We glorify him. We tell him we love you come what may. And this, your father delights in this, because this is what a good son or daughter will do. 37, 38, and 39. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life nor angels, notice it says nor angels, because these are the ones that fell, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing, people, nothing is going to separate us from our Father and our King and our Redeemer, because it's your Father's will that's being done. Many people believe the devil or the evil of the world, that they're in control. Folks, listen to me, they only go to the bathroom if he allows them. If he doesn't want them to, if he wants them to quit breathing now, they will stop breathing. Do you understand? They will stop breathing. Okay, folks, as we close here in Romans 9:21 through 23, I want you to really think about these words and let them melt your heart. Let them live in you. Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor, which is us, and another unto dishonor? So your Father created these two families. One, his. The other family, Satan, which means adversary. So he created these two families. One for himself, said, this is mine. Then he created another one and said, no, that's going to be the enemy. That's going to be the enemy of me, because I need an enemy. And I'm going to show you why, because it's not that I'm going to teach you. The Father's going to tell you why he actually did it. 22. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy which he had afore prepared unto glory. Now let me give you, that's the 1611 version. Let me give it to you the way I read it in our modern English. What if the Almighty Father, willing to show his power, willing to show his tender mercy, his love, his magnificent power, and it hurts him in a way that we can't comprehend, because it's with long suffering that he has created these nasty creatures and put them against us, because in doing so, people, we may see how incredible, wonderful, and glorious he is, and then in return he's going to bestow that glory upon us, because he said which he had afore prepared unto glory, because he planned this before you ever came here. This was planned. So when you feel bad, scared, and when you feel apprehensive about the world, your Father loves you. He's never going to leave you. He loves you. He will never, ever leave you. When things go bad, you remember that. This is his plan. Nobody can touch a hair on your head unless the Father allows it. You will live to be 100 if he wants you to. Any disease that you have, he'll take it away. And if he wants to put something on you, a thorn in the flesh, then he'll do it. When he does it, love him. Love him. This is his house, his rules, and ain't nobody going to outdo your Father. You could take all the evil of this world times infinity, times infinity, times infinity, and they are pissant compared to your Father. He created it all. He is putting his children through a school, a training, for a reason that only he knows. And it's for our glory. He said that he's going to make us kings and priests, queens. We are a royal priesthood. Your Father loves you, and this is your Father's plan. Nothing that's happened is not according to his will. The devils believe they actually can win. Why do you think that is? He did it in the Old Testament. He did it with Pharaoh. He has to let these monsters think they could win, because if not, they would be running and burying themselves as far as they could, because they're going to be, as it says in 22, vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. Your Father loves you. Remember what we've learned in this video. We are not all the same people. And the world can tell us this, that in a politically correct world, that we are all the same. This is a gross, evil, wretched lie. We are not all the same. Some of us are children of the Almighty Father. Some of us are children of the devil. Children of the devil. And this is a reality. And when you will accept this, this world will open up to you. May the Father, in the name of Yahushua, Jesus the Christ, have mercy upon you, love and protect you. God bless you all.